Hello, everybody, and welcome back to GV Talks Books. This series is all about the Little House in the Big Woods, and we have a few amazing guests with us today, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So, Ray, go ahead and introduce yourself for everybody.
My name is Ray, and I'm in 3rd grade.
So glad you're here with us, Ray. And Jaxson, can you introduce yourself?
My name is Jaxson, and I am also in 3rd grade.
And we have an extra special guest that joins me during this podcast. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Mrs. Norasethaporn. I'm the librarian at GV, and super excited to be here with you guys now and reading this book with these 3rd graders.
Yes, and we're so excited that Mrs. Norasethaporn can join us because she really makes the magic happen. She takes this book into our 3rd grade classes. We get to hear her beautiful voice as she shares the book with everybody. I just love listening. So today we're going to talk about chapter 2 in Little House in the Big Woods. And Jaxson and Ray are going to kind of help us recap the chapter and talk about some similarities and differences to our own lives, because that's immediately what I thought when I heard Mrs. Norasethaporn read us chapter 2. So this chapter talked a lot about chores, and we have a lot of chores that we have to do in our life, and they had a lot of chores that they had to do in the Ingalls home. Jaxson, can you share with us some of the chores that the Ingalls family had to do each week?
So sometimes the dad would go out and hunt and take his axe and his gun to use to hunt or to protect himself. Mm-hmm. And he would also use the axe for cutting down trees to get more wood.
Yeah. Is there anything that happens inside the house?
I think that the mom cooks most of the meals and she's inside the house most of the time.
I think you're probably right.
What I think.
And she cleans.
Yeah, Ray, you got that right. She cleans. Is it just Ma and Pa doing all these chores?
No.
Ray, who else has to do the chores?
All 3 of their daughters. They have 3 kids.
Yeah, those 3 lovely ladies that they have, those 3 girlies that they have. We have Laura, Mary, and there is a baby there. Probably baby's not doing a whole lot of chores yet, but she will someday. So they have to do a lot of work during this colonial time out on the Ingalls farm. And we have to do chores today, too. Ray, could you share what type of chores that we have to do today? Maybe some of the chores that you have to do?
I would clean my room and put away the dishes.
Cleaning your room, putting away the dishes. Yeah, Jaxson, do you have to do any chores? Or does anyone in your family do any chores?
Yes, I do have to do chores at my house.
What do you have to do?
When I get up in the morning, I have to obviously make my bed, feed my cat, go downstairs, feed my dogs, and I have to get ready for school or wherever I'm going. And then at the end of the night, I would put away the dishes from dinner.
So there's a lot of chores there. And I heard that both of you have to put away some dishes sometimes, right? And we have to clean. And we have to feed. Jaxson, you mentioned that you had to feed your cats and your dogs. Do you think the Ingalls family had any animals that they had to feed as part of their chores?
Yes, they did have a cow, a horse, a and a dog and a pig.
And a pig, yeah. So there are some things that we have to do that's the same that the Ingalls family had to do. And then, of course, there are some things that are different, right? One of the chores that you mentioned, Jaxson, is going out hunting. But some of the animals that they had, they didn't have to hunt for, right? Like the pig, they raised the pig with the idea that they were going to eat it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
they had it for a short period of time.
Exactly.
I also have to feed the 2 dogs.
Perfect. Right. So we all have to feed. I have a cat at home, and so it is my chore to feed her, mostly because when she wakes, she wants food at 5 in the morning. I'm the only person willing to get up and do it. So I'm hoping someday my daughter Scarlett will pick up that chore, but I kind of don't think she will at 5 in the morning. But who knows? Fingers crossed. So they had this pig for a short amount of time. Whose chore was it to butcher the pig?
The dad's.
The dad's. But Ma and the girls did help smoke the pig so that they can eat it later. But they also did something kind of funny with the pig so that they could use all of the pig and not waste anything. Jaxson, what did they do?
So what they did is they cut the pig's bladder off. Then they cleaned it. And then the girls used it as like a ball.
Oh my goodness.
So kick it around.
So let me ask you, Ray, when is the last time you went and blew up a pig's bladder so that you could play with it as a ball?
I never have before.
Never. That would be a little silly. So
I wouldn't do it either.
You wouldn't do it either, Jaxson? I probably wouldn't either. Mrs. Norasethaporn, what about you?
I don't know. No, probably not. Probably not.
Yeah, so that is a chore. Thankfully, it's a little different than what we have to do now. So Jaxson, you kind of already talked about this, which was wonderful. That Pa wasn't in the house doing chores, right? So Ma and the girls did a lot of the chores inside, but Pa was still working hard. He was outside with his gun and with his axe. And can you just remind everybody, what was he doing with those 2 things outside?
He was using the gun to hunt. He was also using it to protect himself of any like animals that would come out and try to eat him.
Yeah.
He would use his axe to get wood for the fireplace at home.
Do any of you have a fireplace in your home? Ray, you have one? Mrs. Norasethaporn, you have one too? Oh, no.
Not wood burning. No.
I have one that, like, if it gets 30 or below, it'll turn on.
That is super handy, Ray. In your fireplace, do you actually put wood in it, or is there a button that turns it on?
We don't put wood in it.
Yeah. So, Mrs. Norasethaporn, what type of fireplace do you have?
I have it's a pellet stove, so I have to put pellets in my stove to keep it burning, but I don't put wood in it. It's not wood burning.
So is there any chores that goes along with a pellet stove that you have to do?
Yes, we have to go buy the pellets, stack them up somewhere where they will stay dry and that we can get to them. And then every day we have to bring in a bag of pellets and fill the stove if we want it to keep going. So yeah, there's kind of some chores there. It doesn't just happen on its own.
Dang, I think I like Ray's setup here where once it gets cold, it just turns on.
Yep, the button, that works.
That would be nice. Yeah, I have an electric stove, or electric fireplace rather. So mine's just a button. So there's no chores, but it doesn't have the heat like a wood stove has. So, you know.
Nice. Yeah.
Mine doesn't have any buttons on it.
No.
No.
Well, at
No.
least it keeps you warm a little bit.
Yeah. Does it keep you warm though, Ray?
Yeah, it's like in the back living room, so that's the warmest place in our house.
Oh yeah.
That's nice. So on a snowy day, I would probably get my blanket and go sit in that back room by the fire.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Pa's doing a lot of work outside, getting the wood for the fire, hunting. What does the whole family have to do for their food, right? Like we know that they hunted animals, but what else did they have to do so that they could eat, right?
They would salt the food to keep it good for a little longer.
Yeah, they had to preserve it so it didn't go bad because they didn't have refrigerators like we do. Ray, do you remember whose chore that was to salt their food?
I think it was Mom's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mom, the girls.
Nice job, Ray. So what else did they have to do? Did they have to plant anything to eat?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we know what type of foods that they planted?
Vegetables.
Yeah, they did. They did a bunch of veggies so that they could have those. Mrs. Norasethaporn, correct me if I'm wrong, but kind of did everybody help out with that chore?
Yeah, everybody they would help out making the garden and then making sure that the animals stayed out of it and weeding it and then harvesting the food out of the garden. And then it all went. Do you remember where they stored most of it? What part of the house did they store it in?
Did they store it in the attic?
In the attic. Yep, they would store it up in the attic and then Laura and Mary would play around it, right? That's where they would go and play when it was colder outside. But you're right, they stored a lot of their food up in the attic of their house.
So I know I like just being able to go to my refrigerator to grab a snack or two, but we do have a pantry. Do any of you have a pantry at your house? Just some cupboards that have food in them?
Yeah, we have a pantry at my house.
Nice. Jaxson, where do you keep your food?
In my refrigerator.
So the way that we keep our food, is it similar to the Ingalls family or is it pretty different?
It's different.
It's like kind of different.
But there are some similarities, aren't there, Ray?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, I think, one of the reasons why I love reading this book, because even though it happened so long ago and there's things like the pig bladder that I read and I think, oh, no, absolutely not. I'm not going to blow up a pig's bladder and play with it as a ball. There's some things that I would never do now. But then there are things that like gardening and farming that I think there's tons of people who still do those things. Right?
Yeah. My grandpa does that.
He farms?
Mm-hmm.
What type of things are on his farm?
Do you know? He has pumpkins.
Oh.
Pumpkins. He grows pumpkins.
Awesome. Jaxson, do you know any farmers?
No.
No. Mrs. Norasethaporn, how about you?
Yeah, I know some farmers. I know some farmers who grow crops and then some farmers who have animals like cows that give us milk and some pigs and chickens who give us eggs. So, yep.
I know one farmer at our school who a lot of the times takes her students to her farm. Do you guys know Mrs. Dykeman?
No.
No, this year she's a 6th grade teacher, but normally she's a 5th grade teacher, and she has a farm with a bunch of cows. So when you get up there and you have Mrs. Dykman, perhaps you will be able to go see her farm and see what they do today. And you can think about the Ingalls family and think about how it's a little different or how it might be a little bit of the same. So keep this book in your head because I bet you'll think about it when you get there.
I have
So-
milked a cow before.
You've milked a cow before?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
That's really awesome. I will tell you, Ray, I have never milked a cow. Did you like doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really great.
That's very cool.
That is so fun. Jaxson, you're making a funny face. Would you ever want to milk a cow? No? I think I'd be a little scared to milk a cow. Ray, was it a little scary?
Uh-uh.
No, cows are huge. Like in my mind, cows are so big. I feel a little nervous. You go, girl. That's awesome. So in this chapter, they talked about a lot about chores, but Laura also shared with us her favorite time of day. And she said that her favorite time of day was nighttime. Ray, why did she like nighttime so much?
She liked nighttime because her dad would tell her stories.
Yeah. Do any of you guys listen to stories at nighttime?
No.
No?
No.
Did you used
No.
to when you were little? Did anybody read you books?
I don't remember.
You don't remember. I bet somebody read you books, Ray. Jaxson, someone read you books?
Someone did.
Yeah.
My mom.
Yeah, that's what moms do. That we do that best, I think, is read books. And as an adult, nighttime is still when I like to read my books. That's when I like to hear my stories. So I kind of agreed with Laura. I like nighttime so I can read stories. Mrs. Norasethaporn, what about you?
Yes. Nighttime is it's nice for me. It's a time to relax. Like it's a time when everything is done. Right before you go to bed, you can just unwind a little bit. A book is always a good idea. I always have a book to read. So
Imagine
I
that.
like
The librarian has a book.
always with a book, right? Yeah.
Before I go to bed, I read a little bit of my chapter book.
Perfect. That's a great time to
Fantastic.
do. Yep.
Yes. So Laura, did Laura have a library that she could go and get books from?
No.
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 So who was telling Laura these stories? Because she wasn't reading them.
Paul.
Ray? Yeah.
Her dad.
Her dad, Pa. Pa was telling her these stories and telling her and her sisters. They all sat down and they listened to these stories, which I think is pretty neat, right? Because they didn't have books, so they had to tell the stories over and over for different people to learn them and to then share them with other people. Was there anything else that she liked about nighttime? They got to listen to stories. Is there anything else?
I remember. What did he play, you guys? What did he do? What else did Pa do?
Jaxson, what did he play? You said it
He
before.
played
Fiddle.
the fiddle. Good job.
The fiddle, yeah. So a fiddle is like a violin, right? Similar to a violin. So he had the fiddle. And what did you say about the fiddle, Jaxson?
Fiddly riddle.
Fiddly riddly.
Fiddly riddly. Yeah. So I think I agree with Laura that nighttime would be my favorite time at the Ingalls house, where you got to relax and listen to stories and listen to someone play a fiddle, probably by the fire. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Sounds nice. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today to talk about chapter 2. We had our 2-week break and I missed everybody so much over our 2-week break. So before we finish out this episode, let's just go around and I just want to hear who is your favorite character in the book so far. So Mrs. Norasethaporn, we're going to start with you.
Okay, so far, I think last time in episode 1, I think I chose Laura. I'm going to stick with Laura. Laura seems to be my favorite my favorite character. She's a spicy little thing. She's kind of she gets herself into some trouble a little bit, but she works hard, and she loves her ma and her pa and her sisters. And I like Laura. I like to hear all the fun things that she does.
Laura definitely is spicy. I like that description. Jaxson, who is your favorite character?
My favorite character would be the dog.
And why do you like the dog?
I like animals.
Oh,
Perfect. Ray, how about you? Who's your favorite character?
My favorite character is Jack too,
Jack the dog. And why do you like Jack?
because doggies are my favorite animal.
Awesome. Do you guys have dogs at your house?
Yeah, I have my own doggy.
Yeah. Jaxson, how about you? Do you have any dogs?
Yeah, I have 2 dogs.
Perfect. So it makes sense why you guys like Jack.
I have 2 dogs.
Fantastic. So my favorite character, I think, from chapter 2, I picked Ma in chapter 1 because it seemed like she was kind of doing a whole lot behind the scenes. She was like a very quiet but important character. But in chapter 2, I think that I like Pa. Pa was kind of my favorite in chapter 2 because of everything he did for the chores, all the chores he did, because I love to eat. Food is my favorite. So whoever is bringing the meal is my favorite person of the day. And I like that he tells stories. I think I would enjoy sitting by a fire and listening to Pa's stories. So feed me and tell me a good story, and I'll be your best friend for life. So, so I want to thank you all for joining us. And would you guys want to come back and do this again sometime?
I would. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we will have to do that. And for all of our listeners out there, we hope that you're enjoying hearing about The Little House in the Big Woods. If you want to read the book yourself, you can head to a local library, get Little House in the Big Woods. If you are a GV student, you can hear Mrs. Norasethaporn read Little House in the Big Woods. She is fantastic to listen to. And we will see you next time to talk about chapter 3.
Bye.